Thanks for joining us. I'm Marlon Bowling with you here on a Thursday. I like to call it our weekly export sales Thursday. And indeed, USDA did come out with their export sales numbers. We can run through the numbers with a little expert help along the way. Let's go ahead and bring in Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated in McHenry, Illinois. All right, Rich is on the line with us right now, and we have the numbers hot off the press here, Rich. I want to run through all these with our audience. Get your thoughts on what we're seeing. I'm scanning across here at the numbers. We'll start with the corn. Had a total this past week of 1.27 million metric tons. That compares to a range of estimates that ran between 700,000 and 1.4 million. And the soybeans, 1.28 million. That was right, about in the middle of our range of expectations. Soy meal, 296,000 tons. That was actually above the range of expectations. Soy oil, 27,400 tons. That was above the range of expectations. And how about the wheat for a change? 615,400 tons. And the trade was only looking for about 200,000 to maybe 400,000 tons. So let's start with the wheat for a change here this morning. I was a little bit surprised to see a number that high. How about you?
Certainly was. You know, one of our stories here about this whole wheat discussion the past 2 weeks has been that, the growing supply of other people's wheat, and still maybe are concerning about the high supplies about U.S., Canada, and Australian product here over this year and this next year up ahead. But certainly as far as these numbers, a little surprised. We didn't see any major one buy type of stories this past week. So great numbers. On the other hand, let's be honest, though, it does make up for what was a weak number last week, only 175,000.
Okay, now we also had numbers for grain sorghum, cotton, and rice that came out. For the grain sorghum, they had a fairly strong 120,000 tons. Upland cotton, we have a combined total of 262,000 running bales this time around. Now that is divided up between this year and next marketing year. For the 2018-19 marketing year, they had 8,800 running bales, so that made up a part of that. And we had the rice coming in there at 86,400 metric tons. That was higher than last week as well. So overall, I mean, you have to look at that as a fairly friendly export sales number, at least from this weekly perspective here.
No doubt about that. And a lot of people have been looking for some type of support to finally come in for some of these sales there. So on this end, certainly good to see. We'll see what type of market reaction we do get here for this report here today.
And on top of that, the good news for producers just continues to roll on this morning here, Rich. We have another overnight sale. Let's add this to the total. Okay, so to recap, we had soybeans at 1.28 million tons this past week. Overnight, we have another 384,000 tons. That was all earmarked to China. It was for the current marketing year here. So in one fell swoop, they add well over 1/3 metric tons just all in one batch there. How supportive do you think that will be to the trade? This has been a trend here lately where we have overnight sales announced and then the market goes the other way anyway.
That's exactly right. I think one thing we've got to point out is there's probably a few more weeks we need of good sales to even suggest we're back to where we should be. As it stands right now with sales at least through the 12th, and not including this overnight sale you just mentioned, we had 966 million bushels of beans procured, still running about 4% under last year, 4% under the 5-year average. And as a reminder, USDA is still calling for record soybean sales this year. We think they'll get hit, but we certainly need a few more weeks of great sales to justify that strong number they have.
Tell me about that story that came out yesterday where China has been importing so much soy oil they can't even use it fast enough and their stockpiles are increasing.
It certainly is a big question here for us, and one of our things regarding this whole stockpile issue on the oilseed side and also affecting us on the soybean oil side is the palm oil discussion. The palm oil people have been talking about possibly some good buys from Chinese buyers in these coming weeks, but obviously if they have some excess soybean oil, it might be more of a deterrent on anything else as far as the whole oilseed demand side.
Okay, Rich, can't wait to get you back here in a little bit, and we'll talk a little livestock market action, too. We're talking with Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're talking with Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated right now, and we're going to talk about the livestock market activity. And Rich, I'm looking at these export sales that we were just running through on the grain side, and we have additional information here related to the livestock sector, and that would be our beef and pork exports. Tell me about those numbers.
You know, as far as these numbers we got in here on the beef side, after what's been weeks of pretty good numbers, we did see maybe a little disappointing result here today. 13,570 metric tons of beef sold in the past week. This actually was, in terms of our viewpoint where we compare these against last year, a little disappointing. Running about 12% under last year, so maybe a slight bearish influence from the beef side here. Over on the pork, numbers actually a little tougher to look at here. In fact, the lowest sale in 14 weeks for the pork side. This number is actually about 41% under last year, so disappointing on both ends, maybe a little more so for the pork here today.
Now, there is a, excuse me, there is a split on both of these between the calendar year of 2017 and 2018. Of course, we're getting down the home stretch here of 2017 already. Hard to imagine that, but for the beef, I just wanted to split that out for everybody. 13,600 tons was for this calendar year, and then 800 tons of that was earmarked for 2018. Just wanted to point that out. On the pork side, we had the calendar year of 2017 marked for 11,400 tons of pork. The rest of it, 2,800 tons, was earmarked for 2018. So we are starting to roll that calendar over here and start to accumulate some buying for the next year already. Didn't know if you had any thoughts on if that is normal for this time of year or not.
You know, as far as this goes on the remaining year discussion, I think we are going to see probably some numbers pick up a little bit here from here on out. As a reminder, we are at some very low prices for the beef side of things here, and we're attracting, of course, U.S. buyers pretty aggressively for featuring for November. Certainly on the export side, I think they'll be pointing out this exact same scenario. So in the coming weeks, we should see these numbers pick up quite a bit here, especially on the beef end here.
And with all the talk about the trade between us and our neighbors, north and south, I note where on the pork side, the biggest buyer again was Mexico, 3,400 tons, and then we had Japan for 2,600. So Mexico is still a big market buyer there of U.S. ag goods.
Certainly is. And when we're talking about these type of sales to Mexico and you're looking at the importance here, as far as some numbers to kind of put in your head, roughly about $3 to $4 of every hog that we get as far as sales goes to or comes from Mexican-based buying. So this is something, and we'll have to watch the type of NAFTA discussions we're having here as well in these coming weeks very closely too. And
you had a comment there earlier about hog weights. We did get a new update yesterday, right?
Exactly right. So the latest numbers as far as USDA's weekly Iowa-Minnesota run, which is kind of closely followed by the trade, we did see a small tick up on the weight side of things here on a week-to-week basis. Our focus is actually on the numbers on a versus last year basis. And by that comparison, we saw only about a 0.3% year-over-year increase. That's actually under what we've seen here for the most recent numbers for whole U.S. So yes, a slight uptick in weights. We're actually not too concerned because of the year-to-year comparison.
All right. Well, thanks again, Rich. Appreciate that very much. Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated in McHenry, Illinois, and we'll be talking more with the Allendale folks as we go through the day. Mark.
Well, and the livestock trade was where all the action took place yesterday here, with the grain trade, you know, a penny or two either side.
A lot of volatility this week. Yeah, you're right.
Good. Thank you, and thanks, Rick.